Happy Friday, and yes, we're late, and we're late for a good reason because it has been a day. All things advocacy with AARP North Dakota. I'm State Director Josh Askvig. With me, as always, is our Advocacy Director Janelle Moos. Janelle, have you taken a few deep breaths? Have you calmed yourself down after what just happened?
Yes, I'm so glad that we had about an hour in between what just happened and this live broadcast. So,
Excellent. Janelle, let's first just back up to the beginning of the day. We weren't totally certain what was going to happen today. We were pretty certain the Senate was going to vote on our bills. We thought the House would vote on the transparency bill, and it turns out kind of both. So maybe let's start with kind of how it happened in order. So we were watching two bills. We have more than two left before crossover, but really two of our priority bills. One around price importation, which was Senate Bill 2170, that was on the Senate floor calendar for vote today. The other one was House Bill 1032, which was the prescription drug transparency bill. Let's start with that one. So can you just remind folks watching what was the price transparency bill and what would it do if it gets passed into law?
sure, House Bill 1032, which was the transparency bill, that was studied during the interim, and a lot of you have been following that bill. We interviewed Representative George Kaiser back in the fall. Really, what that bill would do is pull the you know really pull the we want to know what the cost of prescription drugs is. So this requires reporting. So looking at when it's manufactured to the point of when you pick it up at the counter, what changes during that time and why is it one particular price at that point and then it's a different price. So it's really pulling the veil down, looking at what goes into the cost of those drugs and how can we make sure you as a consumer know what the cost is, and if it is going to go up, you can make some really informed decisions about what prescription drug you're on and make some good decisions if you can find something that's lower cost.
Yeah, and we actually thought going into the session that this would have been one of the we didn't think any of them were going to be easy. So just to be clear, but we thought this one might be a little bit easier lift. And in committee, it got kind of mauled, for lack of a better term. It came out of committee with a very, very negative recommendation. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Unfortunately, it did. You and I spent a lot of time in House Human Services talking to the committee members and the chair, but ultimately they talked about the bill on Tuesday, even though it was one of the representatives moved forward an amendment that would have increased the number of folks that were responsible for reporting. Unfortunately, it came out of the committee 12-2 do not pass, which any of those of you that follow policy bills, a 12-2 do not pass is really not coming to the floor in good shape. So we were not optimistic. We knew we had a really huge hill to climb. But I think with anything advocacy, nothing's impossible, right, Josh?
Nothing's impossible. In fact, the word itself says I'm possible. So is part of it. But so 1032 hit the House floor today, and you want to just give a quick synopsis of what happened, because 12-2 do not pass. I think we were hopeful as always, but skeptical at best, right?
I think that would be the great way to explain it. And the bill carrier came up and described what the bill would do. But you know what? There were some champions on the floor that talked about really bottom line what this bill would do, what would do for consumers. They talked about the importance of it, that it has been studied, that it has been tested out in other states. And I think what we saw through and through today is that the voices of our members came through to their legislators. The postcards that were sent back to their legislators back in December, emails, phone calls, those touches from our members to tell them, this is important to me. That's what we heard on the House floor today. And we had an incredible flip on the floor, which rarely happens, right, Josh? You rarely see a bill that comes out, do not pass. And we were able to flip that bill on the floor. And did we do it by a little, or?
The final vote, 63 votes yes in favor of our bill, 29 votes against, 2 people were absent and not voting. We'll publish a photo of a snapshot, a screenshot of the final vote, so you can find out how your specific legislator voted on that. So at the exact same time that was happening today, like right in the middle of that debate, all of a sudden, because I'm sure you, like I, were clicking back and forth on your internet tabs about watching the Senate floor, watching the House floor, watching the Senate floor, watching the House floor. At about the middle of that debate, the Senate started debating Senate Bill 2170, which you want to just give folks a quick reminder of what 2170 originally was going to do, and then maybe explain a little bit how it was tweaked in the committee process.
Sure. 2170 was our third prescription drug bill that Senator Anderson moved forward this legislative session. Originally, it was looking at reference pricing, so really looking at the price of prescription drugs, a certain number of drugs in Canada, and comparing that price to what we pay in the United States. It did change that a little bit, looking at a way to make it a little bit more tangible, not necessarily referencing, but looking at an index price. So what it does is allows the state to negotiate prices. So to look at X number of drugs, probably the most expensive or most used in our state, how can we look at those drugs, look at what North Dakotans are paying, look at what the Canadian prices are? It allows the insurance commissioner to really have that ability to negotiate those prices. So it's not exactly what it started, but I think it's an important step forward. And I know this conversation will continue on into the House. So
yeah, the other thing it did, and I think this is important for folks watching to know, is the bill as it was originally introduced would have applied to everybody. The amendments did, and I think it was to put the Senate in line, and they've done this on other bills too. If you've been following some of the other news stories, they did restrict it to just the Public Employees Retirement System beneficiaries for the first 2 years, which they traditionally do on bills of this type. And so it did restrict it, but it's still a step in the right direction. And I do want to give a shout out. Senator Anderson joined us, I guess it was probably a month ago, and outlined the bills. He's been a champion of prescription drugs. I think it's important to recognize the work he has done on the Senate side as part of it and do it. And so Senate Bill 2170 hit the floor. I think we knew it was going to be tight and close, because we were hearing all week as we were up at the Capitol when we were able to be there, that the industry was really pushing back hard on 2170. I think in part because we had victories last week on 2209 and 2212. We're pushing really back really hard. We knew that, but again, I think the voice of our members sharing their stories, sending emails, writing notes, making phone calls, talking to your legislators came through, and the final result was 24 yays, 22 nays, one person absent. So if it would have been 23-23, the the lieutenant governor would have had to break the tie. Don't know what would have happened there. Doesn't matter. We got 24 votes. You have to get 224, even if people are absent, to do it. And so we got it over the hump. For now, this is one I think we're keeping an eye on, because with a close vote, I think there's always a potential that it could come back next Monday to be debated as part of it. So I think our message to folks on both of them would be what, Janelle, heading into the weekend?
We wouldn't be in this position today without our members. And so what I would say is, you helped us cross this finish line to get those bills passed. Your legislators need to hear from you. You need to tell them what it means to you that they took a chance. They use this opportunity to say, yeah, we want cheaper drugs in North Dakota. So send them a thank you, a quick email, a quick handwritten note, leave them a voicemail, tell them that you appreciate the work that they do and that they voted in favor of helping lower that cost of drugs for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we'll post on our aarp.org/ND page under the there's a story about the legislative session. We'll post the final votes of each of them. We screenshotted each of them so we could keep track of that. So you'll be able to see that. And if you're not sure who your legislator is, there'll be a link for you to help figure out who that is too. Again, I think those pats on the back for those that voted yes would be helpful, and a note to your senator if they voted no to say, hey, hopefully on the next one, do it. Because what happens now, Janelle, is on all four, just to quickly back up, and we'll wrap it up here shortly so people can get to the weekend, is part of it. So all of the Senate bills, we've had 3 Senate bills passed: 2209, which would allow North Dakota to partner up with other states to do wholesale importation from Canada safely; 2212, which would conduct a legislative study of prescription drug pricing and ways to bring down prescription drugs. Also passed 2170, which is the one we just talked about allowing the insurance commissioner to negotiate prices using Canadian reference prices. And then now 1032, So 2020, all the twos, 2209, 2212, 2170 are all Senate bills. They've passed. They will now go over to the House chamber, and they'll get a second hearing in consideration in the House. And then 1032 will now go over to the Senate chamber, where it will get a second hearing and passage. And so we'll be again discussing these same issues in the second half of the session, which I think are important issues as part of it. And so continuing to talk to your legislators, even if they voted against us this time, I think continuing to explain why this is an important issue to you, because we'll need their votes in the second half of the session to continue to move this work forward. With that, Janelle, anything you want to add before we head into the weekend?
Just never give up. Never doubt your voice. Never doubt that one little email, one little phone call makes a difference, because it does. I mean, today is really the day to say that your voice does count. It does matter. They don't know if you don't reach out to them. So thank you for supporting us, and we really look forward to crossover and starting all over again and having this important conversation.
Yeah, and if you can't tell if Janelle and I are excited, let me just be clear, we are. And again, I think we're both excited because we know that you all spoke up and had our backs as we went at the Capitol and fought when we were able to do that. And I hope you know we had your backs championing that as well. And it's an exciting day. We still have a lot of work to do, but it's time to take that deep breath, celebrate this first step and important steps, and continuing to try and put pressure on bringing down prescription drugs. And we'll be back next week with all things advocacy to talk more about what's going on in the advocacy world for AARP North Dakota. Have an excellent weekend, everybody.
Bye.